Greetings, Packer fans worldwide. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast for October 22nd, 2025, as we prepare for Packers versus Steelers on Sunday night. This is going to be a super fun game. There's so many storylines. You got Packers versus Aaron Rodgers. You've got Aaron Rodgers' legacy by being the only player that could possibly beat all of the teams in the NFL. There's like so many things going into this game. And I know 100% that on Sunday Night Football, it's going to be about Aaron Rodgers in the production. They're going to be talking about him playing against his old team. They're going to talk about his chances of beating every team in the NFL if he beats the Packers. So I think the narrative for Sunday night has already been written by NBC. So we're going to have to see if I'm accurate about that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a situation where they really amp up the rivalry between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. But the truth of the matter is even though Aaron Rodgers was traded, it was pretty much at his request. He was happy to move on. Aaron Rodgers actually had a great relationship with Jordan Love. He had a great relationship with Matt LaFleur. So, and Aaron Rodgers came out today and he said this is not a revenge game for him. He doesn't wish the Packers ill will. It's just another game on the schedule. I'm not going to buy that it's just another game on the schedule, but I really think Sunday Night Football is going to be amping up this rivalry. So it'll be interesting to see if that impacts the play on the field. The Packers are currently 3.5-point favorites. I think that's pretty accurate, given the fact that the Packers beat the Bengals pretty soundly, and the Steelers just lost to the Bengals. So I think there's definitely some similar opponents you can look at to figure out the strengths of the teams. And I do think the Packers have a more complete team than the Steelers. That being said, you could argue that the Steelers might have a couple bigger stars, but the Packers roster overall is better. So it's going to be like a stars versus depth type of matchup. So it's going to be very exciting to watch this game. I'm going to be watching it with some friends and family, just really to make the most of the event. And watching it with friends and family will probably help me be a little less neurotic and stressed out about the whole ordeal. So that's a bonus as well. So let's go through some big news going into this matchup. We're going to start talking about the matchup over the next couple days. One of the great things about this being a Sunday night game is it gives us extra time to break down the matchups, do a couple games, pre-game keys to the games, and we'll of course have a pre-game show on Sunday before the game. But I'm very excited about this game and looking at it at many different levels because there's Aaron Rodgers, there's the Steelers defense versus the Packers offense. So we're going to break all that down as we get closer to the game. But some big news and notes that came out today. Today was the Packers' first press conference of the work week, so to speak, because the Packers were off on Monday, and they were doing some rehab and stuff like that on Tuesday. So this is the first big practice of the week. So big news that came out, number one, Christian Watson plans on playing this week. In practice today, Christian Watson stated, "It's my goal and plan to play this week." As we know, Watson is coming off of an ACL injury, and this is very important, and it couldn't be a better time because Dontavian Wicks dropped out the last 2 weeks with injuries. So Christian Watson is probably going to get significant snaps in this game. I've been talking about Christian Watson and his rehab since I was at training camp in July. And I saw him every day at practice working out on the sideline with the trainers. He looked great. We've seen all kinds of stuff on social media with him making breaks and making plays while he's practicing himself. So there's no reason to believe he's not ready. And I think Christian Watson could be a huge X factor for this Packers team going against the Steelers. There's nothing on tape for Christian Watson so far this year, obviously. And he has a unique ability to stretch the field. Okay? Anytime Christian Watson is on the field, they're going to be focused on him, and they're going to be putting safety help on the side of the field he is at. Him stretching the field gives you more in the medium and intermediate routes, and it also allows the receiver on the other side of the field to get one-on-one matchups. So Christian Watson could be considered a decoy. I like to think of him as the big play field stretcher instead of a decoy. But there's no reason to believe that he cannot have a big impact on this game on Sunday night. It's going to be a huge X factor, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up playing primarily on 3 wide receiver sets. On 2 wide receiver sets, it's probably going to be Golden and Dobbs, but on 3 wide receiver sets, when they're going 3rd and long or they're looking for a big play, it's going to be the Christian Watson show as the 3rd wide receiver. So I think this is a great time for him to come back. I always suspected this is his most likely time to come back because the Steeler game coincides with the deadline to activate him to the active roster. So look for Christian Watson to make his return this week and hopefully make some big plays. Another thing to keep in mind that can't be undervalued is Christian Watson is a great run blocker for running plays. So that's another factor where he can help the game outside of being a receiver, is he can helpfully open up the running game for Josh Jacobs. Once he gets past to the second level of the defense, that's where Christian Watson can throw some blocks and hopefully get some bigger plays out of the running game. Equally as important to me is Devonte Wyatt returned to practice on a limited basis today. This is really big because even though the Packers have played well without Devonte Wyatt, the depth has really been stretched with Wyatt out. You put Wyatt back in, even if he only plays maybe 50% of the snaps this week, hopefully as they ramp him back up into action, that's really going to help the other players in the defensive tackle group stand up against the run, which is going to be very important against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are a black and blue team. They like to run the ball, and then Aaron Rodgers does play action off of the run. So getting Wyatt back, even as a part-time player, is going to be really big for the Packers this week. One other big news and notes, and it should not become as any surprise, is Micah Parsons was named the NFC Defensive Player of the Year with 11 pressures, 3 sacks, and 5+ hits on the quarterback. He is just a dominant force, and he showed it this week. In fact, if you look at the odds right now, he's actually the odds-on favorite to be the Defensive Player of the Year if he keeps up this pace. So we're going to have to see that. Micah Parsons going after Aaron Rodgers is going to be a huge narrative of this game. And it's not just Micah Parsons getting to the quarterback. It's forcing Aaron Rodgers to get rid of the ball quickly, and hopefully the Packers will do a better job with coverage this week than they did against the Cardinals, and that will force some possibly an interception or possibly some big plays, play stops by the corners in this game. I would argue that the Steelers really don't have the best players for a quick passing game. Their strength is to get some big plays in the passing yards. versus dinking and dunking. So we'll see if the Packers secondary can hold up better this week against Aaron Rodgers. And now what I want to talk about really quickly is I want to take a look at the injury report for this week. The first injury report we have, there's a lot we can see here. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we've got the injury report, Green Bay at the Steelers for Wednesday. Injury report per the Packers website. We've got Aaron Banks, limited participation. Aaron Banks, in my opinion, had a very good game this past week against the Cardinals. This limited participation is just to let him continue to recover due to his groin injury. I expect him to be a go this week. Anthony Belton, ankle, limited participation. It would be great to have Anthony Belton back available as a rotational player for this offensive line this week. Hopefully he'll be active on game day. We have Nate Hobbs, knee with a limited participation. Nate Hobbs has been really a source of frustration for me the last couple weeks. I just don't see him playing up to the level of his free agent contract right now. Granted, he's coming off of a knee injury, but Nate Hobbs, you got to do better, or the Packers really need to start rotating Carrington Valentine in. I would almost like to see Nate Hobbs and Carrington Valentine rotate for a couple series. Valentine plays, then Hobbs plays. Valentine plays, then Hobbs plays. And then we see if we can get a read on who the better player is as a starter. Josh Jacobs has a calf injury, limited participation. He will be fine for this week. Xavier McKinney, ankle, knee, limited participation. Don't anticipate that to be a problem. Brandon McManus, right quadricep, did not participate today. I personally think they're going to give McManus at least another week before he gets into the game. We're going to have to see. Maybe McManus practices later on in the week, and maybe there's a kicker controversy. We'll see. Jordan Morgan, full participant, not worried about that. Zach Tom, limited participant. Again, they're trying to get his oblique injury healed, so I'm not worried about that. Lucas Van Ness did not participate. It's expected he will not play this week. He might be able to come back against the Panthers, so we'll see what happens there. Quay Walker, neck injury, was a full participant. That's really good to hear because he did get a stinger in the game against the Cardinals, but he came back into the game. So it's really good to see Quay Walker as a full participant in this game. Christian Watson, limited participant. We've already talked about that. I expect him to play this week. Wicks did not participate. I expect him to be out this week if they activate Watson. Evan Williams, limited participation back. Not worried about that. Devonte Wyatt, again, limited participation. Hopefully Devonte Wyatt can get back into the rotation by the end of the week. For your Pittsburgh Steelers, we've got Calvin Austin, shoulder injury, full participant. Center Zach Frazier, calf injury, limited participant. That's really important to watch because if the center is not available for Aaron Rodgers, Micah Parsons loves to line up on the inside against the weakest offensive lineman. So if Frazier has an issue where he's limited, that could be a factor in this game. Malik Harrison, linebacker, full participation. Cameron Hayward is getting veteran rest. Will Howard, quarterback, as a backup, got full participation. And TJ Wyatt got veteran rest as well. So that's your news and notes for the Packers today. And we're also going to continue to bring you news and notes throughout the week. And we're also going to start looking at the matchups for this week. So we're going to watch that very closely. And hopefully we'll have some good details for you before this week's matchup. As always, we'll be back with another edition of the Pack Attack Cast either tomorrow or Friday, and we'll start to really break down this matchup. Until then, go Pack Go!